of all of you guys, do you find that you tend to gravitate more toward fan work, art, or like, fandom-related things, or do you do more original artwork, or which do you find more successful?
Nicole and I do almost 100% the actual fan art. So our stuff is based upon everything else. We are not allowed at Otakon unless we get a vendor table. Period.
Yeah. We would have to be in the deal,
which is why we've never done Otakon, because we have to pay all of the money for a vendor table in order to do it.
And we would, since we are the only people making these items, there's just, I can't make the amount of time happen to make the amount of items to make up that cost. I mean, it's just, I'm one person, I'm not a one-person army, not that much.
Yeah. Liz, on the other hand, is almost 100% original. So so she doesn't have a problem.
Yeah, no, I don't. And like if we do fan art, which my husband does watercolors, then we'll only bring them to conventions. We won't really put them on our Etsy or anything. And then they'll be like the one-time deal. Like we won't like mass produce them. So we're very like sensitive about that because we have had friends on social media where like they've made like massive stickers for like a scary movie, and then he got sued, and then he stopped doing fan art completely because that whole experience just like rattled him. So you just have to be aware that like that could happen to you, and just be prepared and like talk to a lawyer so that it's not like a big shocker, because you're kind of like not walking into a trap, but it's a risky business.
I know with our stuff, it's mostly pop culture. I don't know that we have too much original stuff. I mean, I have my little lunar hair sticks, which aren't really a reference to anything pop culture, but yeah, hers is all fan art for sure, and most of what I make is fan related. And personally, I like that aspect of it because I like to make costumes, and so my favorite thing when we're at the convention is seeing people dressed in costumes and seeing how creative they are. And so I want to make pieces that resemble those things, or kind of like an abstract thought on it that people could wear. So which I'm hoping that can grow into.
But a lot of that also is finding the right convention for you.
Yes.
So even if we did go to Otakon, I don't know if I would be successful there. For some reason, my stuff just doesn't do well at anime conventions. I do fantastic at Comic-Cons. I do fantastic at video game conventions. But for some reason, craft shows, maybe. It's weird. Craft shows are strange. It's certain craft shows, depends on the craft show.
Yeah.
But it's finding what does well for you. So, and sometimes it's trial and error. We've learned a lot, and I hopefully will help lots of people with finding what their niche is through the Craft Hacker site, about finding the right convention that fits with you. And I'm hoping to also match people together that need that extra help at the table, and they need the table cost sharing, trying to match the two. Like Nicole and I, we match perfectly with our stuff. So that's also, I'm going to try to help people with that also. So that's the biggest step. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So I'm wondering about the rules of thumb for setting prices for stuff.
That's a very excellent question.
I had a conversation with Dana about this a couple of months ago. It's whenever you come up with a new item. So it's, you have a new item, something you've never done before. So I came up with my pillows. And I said, okay, you know what? It costs me $30 to make each pillow. It takes me about 3 hours of work. So if I were to pay myself minimum wage, they just say $10, then that I would be at least $60. So the first convention I went to, I had them for $60. Didn't sell a single one. So at the next convention, I dropped them down to $40, and at that point, I'm only taking a $10 profit, and they sold like hotcakes. And I went, oh, wait, hold on. And so then I went up to 50. So sometimes you have to experiment. Some people experiment at that same convention. That's not a good idea. Don't change, unless you're taking your prices down at the convention, that's okay. Never raise your prices. So if you have an item that you're selling for $10 and it's selling out, you only have 4 or 5 left, don't increase that price. Because now you're turning off your fans, you're turning off your customers, and they may not come to you because they may have seen your price at $10 earlier, and now they see it higher and they think that, oh, well, they're jacking the prices on me.
Yeah.
So you can bring them down don't bring them up. If you want to bring them up, wait till the next convention.
Also, one thing that I found through experience was sometimes if the prices have to be con dependent. With MagFest, my link hats, I priced them at $20, and they flew. They were just going. And then we went to too many games. They were priced at $20, and nobody wanted them. And I was like, what is wrong? People love my hats. And it was because Too Many Games is in a little, kind of almost backwoods area in Pennsylvania, and you have lots of kids with their allowance money. And so I ended up actually dropping my price, and then they started to move.
And not only that, Too Many Games is really a convention where the people going there are really looking for just that games. They're looking for actual physical games, so things like the old SNES cards, NES, Genesis, Atari, all that stuff. So they're like, okay, I've come here with like $400, but I need that for these really rare games, so no, I'm not going to spend the 20 on that hat because I can get that whenever, but I'm not going to find this copy of Earthbound again if I don't get it today.
Yeah. And that's with the convention match.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing that I think I had to learn is understanding the convention before you give them money for a table. If you don't understand the convention, you may not be happy with it. Yes, sir.
This is a question for each of you. I'm wondering, obviously it varies depending on how far you're having to travel, but what would you say is your average per convention cost when you factor in gas, hotel, getting the vendor space? How much, and along those lines, how much stuff do you guys have to sell to break even?
The selling to break even depends on the convention. And we actually factor it in. So, for example, the DC area, I live in London, Ontario. So for me to come down here is a 10-hour drive. But my parents live about 35 minutes away. So I love coming to conventions in this area because that's a free place to stay. And it factors into my cost. It's a lot of times, I will not travel more than 12 hours because I cannot fly because I have those big, huge grid wall things I have to build. And it costs an arm and a leg to ship them. So the cost of hotels normally they run about 100 to 150 a night depending on the area. And then convention fees for an artist alley table run anywhere between 75 for the small little conventions up to 400 for the big ones. I know Nicole and I run the Gen Con, which doesn't have an artist alley, so we actually have to have a vendor booth, which are very expensive. So we're factoring all that into our costs. So it's, on average, I have to sell about $700 to $800 to break even. If I don't sell at least $1,400 or $1,500, it's not worth for me to come back next year.
Yeah, I'll just go with Tony since we partner together next. I'm just kidding, you guys. I also factor in the cost because I don't know if anyone else does, I keep books and records of all the things that I spend. So every time I go to Michael's and I have to buy more yarn, or if I'm going there and I'm buying more beads to stuff things like my hacky sacks or anything like that, I keep track of it in my accounting books. That way I can see how much I'm spending on this and then add in, what I'm getting from my Etsy sales and then also the cost for shipping, and all of that factors into how much that I price an item depending on where I sell it. So for me though, thankfully, I also, and this is a good thing to note, watch your sales for your stores that you buy from. Like Joann's, I love them. They have a couple times a year, they'll run their coupon promotions where you have like 6 50% off coupons.
And
you can use them
coupons
at register,
stack.
and they stack, you can use them all. Beautiful. But so I don't have to make quite as much as Tony, and that's the other nice thing that we're saying about finding a partner for this stuff, is that when we go to the hotel, and that'll be like $150 a night, well, we share a hotel room, so now that $150 is turned into $75 for each of us, and that can help a lot. So I don't have to make quite as much to just break even. I have to make, I think, at least $400 or $500 at a convention in order to break even on my costs just to get there and to cover what I spent in order to make the things that I have at the table. And that's obviously, that's just to cover material and place to stay. That's not covering anything with the time it took me to make it.
Or food.
Or for food.
As you're walking around going, oh my gosh, that's something really cool, I want that! And you spend the money that you just made.
And much like Tony, so she's already moved to Canada. I will be moving up there. Right now I'm still locally based, but I don't have quite the same problem that she does with never flying because of needing the big setup wall, since I don't do quilts, I don't hang anything behind me. But some of the items I do make are very large, like I make a plush companion cube, and that takes up a decent amount of space. So sure, I can put them in a box and ship them, but once I move to Canada, shipping them internationally, and that's going to be, God, a hassle and a half. But yeah, so definitely look at what's near you and what you're willing to spend on your gas and your travel time. So I tend to stay within probably about 3 states around here. Like I'll go down to maybe Virginia for right now. Yeah, Gen Con.
Yeah,
So
go to
intimidating.
Indianapolis.
But yeah, I like to stay, if I can be somewhere, because I live out of Annapolis, where I can just drive and I can eliminate hotel costs, awesome. But if it's someplace close, but I know that it's going to be worth it to stay at the hotel, because sometimes you just do not want to lug all that stuff back and forth to the hotel every single night. It's the worst. I love the security here.
Yes, we can leave all of our stuff at the table here.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the cool thing about this area, if you're local, is that there are like a lot of other smaller conventions, and a lot of times like those smaller conventions will be walking around the grounds here handing out their flyers. So like totally take a flyer, don't take it as like, I'm gonna throw it on the ground. And just read it, because I know that like the cheapest convention that like we've been a part of was like $40, and then they can go all the way up to like $400. So I think that if you're trying to do your first convention, start at a really small one, just so you can get a feel for like talking to strangers, and then also just like laying at your table, and then work your way up to the biggest ones. Because if you just hop from like straight to going to big, it's gonna be very intimidating and very stressful, and like, you know, you don't need to do that to yourself. So like, briefly, like with us, we just stay local, so we don't have to pay for a hotel or anything. And then once a year, we'll do Mocha Fest in New York, which is like an indie comic festival. And the reason why we go there, we break even, we make a little bit of a loss, but for us, like it's the contacts there. Like we're meeting publishers, we're meeting agents, and so if you find a con where, you know, like if you want to go and like license your stuff, then like try to go to those bigger cities and just like take that as a place where you might take a loss, but the connections you make there are completely worth it.
For me, usually all my stuff I can buy in bulk, so I don't have as much of a material expense as quilting and hat making does. So for me, it's only about $300 to $400 that I have to make to break even, but my stuff is really small, so all my roller bead stuff, I sell from anywhere from $5 to $50. So I have to sell a lot more things and make a lot more things, so it's a lot more time that I have to put in order for me to break even with how much time. Because for this con, I have spent from MagFest until Thursday night making enough stuff to
Thursday night, I recruited my mom and one of my friends to help me lace up my link hats because I had 40 of them left to lace. So that was fun. But yeah, as far as my costs, I think generally to break even, because I usually, because I'm new at this, I have a tendency to forget to include the hotel costs or the food or the gas.
Yeah, I'm always forgetting about gas.
Yeah, that's a big one. Because you're like, oh, I just drive my car every day. But I think generally I need to break even, the cost I need to break even is usually around 500 to 600. So, because the fabric does cost a lot. I do try to make it to the fabric stores when they have fleece on sale, because they'll sell it for
And also, like, you should keep a separate account for your hobby.
Yes.
And then when it comes to your accountant, that guy I mentioned earlier, or gal, they'll completely let you forever, because trying to break it out within like your bank account is like impossible by the time the April rolls around.
That's actually, the way I funded doing this to start with was I had residuals from school loan in a school account that I made for myself. And I was like, well, I'm just going to use that school account and I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try it. And whatever I make will just go right back into the school account. But I'm at a point now, I'm done with school, so I don't get any more residuals from school loans. So now I gotta start paying that. But I'm at a point now where I really need to consider opening a separate bank account so that I have a space where it's like, this is my money for my business, this is my personal money, and this is my money to pay my bills.
Yeah, I have a shoebox where anytime I do anything at all related to a convention or anything else, I'm like, oh, that goes in the shoebox. At the end of the year, I pull all my receipts and I put them in my categories.
Oh, you do it every year. I do it every week. I don't like, okay,
I spent 2 whole days.
Just get a bank account. They'll do it for you.
You may have mentioned this before, because I came in late. Can you talk a little bit about fatigue of this? Like we did for costuming for this week, I personally made 6 costumes, and at the end, I want to just throw my
Oh my
sewing
God, you
machine in
made
the
6
river.
costumes in a week? I mean,
Oh
bravo.
my gosh, I was so but it was that idea. It was every moment that I wasn't doing college also, either college or kids, I was sewing, and I sincerely hated my sewing machine by Friday night.
We haven't talked about this yet. So there's 2 things about that. It's fatigue at the convention itself and fatigue beforehand. So at the convention itself, you have to pace yourself. Nicole has a fantastic story about me, about the very first MagFest we did, which if you haven't been to MagFest, is a 24-hour video game convention.
Oh, wow.
The marketplace is open 24 hours.
So that means you set the hours at your table. If you can have the staff for it, your table can be open from Thursday at like noon until Sunday at like 3.
So our first year, we're all dying home. We're gonna stay there as long as we can.
Oh my God.
And we get there, for on Thursday, it's fantastic. We go there, we stay out late. Friday morning, we get up really early, have a couple hours sleep, and we go all day Fridays, get to stay up late Friday night. By Saturday morning, we get a couple hours sleep, get there first thing Saturday morning, I had no voice. Yeah, no voice, because I didn't pace myself. So at conventions, you have to make sure that you talk as little as possible, so you have signs showing everything. I had no signs. I had no signs. Water, food.
Yes.
You have to remind yourself to eat, because you don't eat sometimes.
And not only that,
Or bring your own food.
You bring your own food,
the thing that Tony really affected with her voice, and I talked to her about it because I was talking just as much as she was. She was like, Nicole, why is your voice fine and mine is not? And the only thing I could give her as an example, and I talked a little bit about it with Dana over here, she has theater experience. I was in the choir for 4 years, and that really helped me a lot with learning how to project your voice and not abuse your vocal cords. So that's something really important to practice, learning to project and not just talk. And it's really hard to describe, so I'm horrible about teaching people how to do it, but it's something you really want to practice and really get good at. And yeah, keep water with you. I will go through a gallon of water a day at these conventions because you talk and you drink as you go. I mean, like, finish this stupid little thing up here already.
And then the other part is building up to a convention. So, and that's probably the biggest thing you were asking about. You have to set time for yourself and set time for your business. Because if this is what you do, you're going to hate life if this is all you do. So at some point, you have to decide, you know what, this is it. I'm not taking anything else. I have to set time for myself. So my husband and I joke that we have a weekend marriage because I don't see him during the week at all. Because I go to work, I have to be at work at 5 a.m. I work 5 a.m. to 1:30. He is normally at work until about 6 or 7, and I go to bed at 8. So that when I come home, I quilt all day long, every day, but I don't do it on the weekends. Saturday and Sunday is our time for family, where we go out and we do things as a family together, where we go out and we do stuff, and I spend time for myself. I play my video games that I never get to play during the whole week. I know how long it's been. You have to find something else, because this is no longer a hobby now. If you love it, but it's not a hobby, it's a business. So you have to now find a hobby. And I know that's hard, to think about, but that's what it is. You have to find out something else.
The other thing I think is important, and I talked to you guys about this last night, is that if I do well at convention, I mean, yes, your money's going to go back into a convention, but I'd like to sort of, it's that whole, reward system psychologically. I would use some of that money for myself. And it'd be something as simple as I did a convention, I did well at it, so I bought myself the new graphics card that I needed for my computer in order to run the better games or to have Photoshop run better. And, I'm thinking about after this one, going and getting myself a massage. Because it's something I don't really do, but it's a nice reward. It's like, yes, this was worth it. It brings you good things, and it does make you happy. So continue doing this. So I really think having that reward, or really even planning those breaks. Like I know I talk about how, the 6-week period, like up before my weekends are busy, but if someone's like, okay, well, that Saturday morning, we're going to the zoo or something, do you want to go? And that's very important. Make sure you have that time that you're spending with your friends and your family and stuff, else you will get overburned on working on this stuff, and you're just going to be like,
and then you
I don't want to do this anymore.
That's right.
I hate this.
So and I know you want to keep pushing yourself and have more and more
We'll
and more and
get to you in
more,
a minute and see if you-
but you can't do that. Yeah, so we're going to take one more question, and then before I take it though, when we're all finished, we all brought our business cards for our personal sites. And Nicole and I also have our business card for Craft Hackers. And I have 2 flyers. One is for if you just want to come and visit the awesomeness of crafts, or if you have crafts that you want to maybe feature on the blog or stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then I
I was looking for
have another flyer, which is if you actually are thinking about becoming a craft hacker, if you want us to do for you what I've been doing for Dana and Donna, you want me to hold your hand. We actually have a membership service where I will hold your hand, I will tell you what to do and how to do it, how to set up your table for the maximum exposure, things like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir, what was your question?
My question is, my mom sells stuff on the side too, and what she does, I found that she sets goals for herself and then tries her hardest to meet that goal, but when she does it, she like gets stressed and everything and starts getting overwhelmed. And I was just wondering, do you guys recommend, or how do you go about setting goals so that you can meet like a certain standard, or do you just go play it by ear when you get to a convention, like, oh, these conventions?
I have strong feelings about this. Someone else want to go first?
For this convention, for example, we just finished MagFest in January, and I was like, okay, I need to have 11 paintings at least, and I need to have all the furlery stuff, and I had 3 boxes, I had new plans for new stuff, so I was like, okay, let me sit down, and I made myself a schedule. Still keeping family time in because I don't want to burn myself out. And I just had a schedule set of, okay, on Sundays when my husband's at work for 8 hours, I sit there and I paint. And that's my painting time. On the weekends when I get, or the weekdays when I get home from work, I give myself 2 hours. If I get it all done, great. If I miss a couple of things, I don't stress about it. That's the biggest thing, because you're not going to get everything done every single time.
And a side note, I want to add to that really quick, is when you get stressed about it, because like, it's inevitably going to happen. Your family's going to be like, oh, I want to talk to you about this, or they're going to interrupt you in your planned craft time. Do not take your stress out on them. Because that's just going to destroy
It's like the best piece of advice.
And just remember, it's not their fault. They know I'm busy, but just help
But
them.
my husband tells me that often too.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
my fiance had to bear the brunt of that this week because, like I said at the beginning, my time management is terrible. I'm getting married in a month, so from after today till my wedding, I'm not doing any crafting. Like, I'm just not. I've got to finish planning all that stuff. So after the wedding, what my plan is I recently started a new job where I only work Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and then every other weekend. So I babysit on Wednesdays, and so Fridays are like one free day, and my fiance works on Fridays. So my plan now is Friday will be creatively tinkering day. That is the day I'm going to work that day. And then whatever I get done, I get done. And that's good.
I was just gonna say that, like, yeah, so the best thing is a schedule. And also if you are partnered with somebody, like my husband and I have a weekly meeting where we check in with each other. And if I'm like behind on my sculpting, then we like reassess our plan and like set different goals. Cause like for us, we're doing like convention deadlines, gallery show deadlines, like comic deadlines for posting to our site, and like, it can get really complicated and overwhelming, and I think you have to learn, like, you want to say yes to everything when you're starting out, because you're like, exposure, but then you can reach a point where you have to be picky about, okay, like, if I'm going to do this project, like, how is it going to work exposure-wise, and is it something that, like, my brand matches with? So you kind of you don't want to just, like, throw your work everywhere and hope that it sticks. You want to start becoming strategic about it, and that'll help you with your planning.
I think the biggest thing you can tell your mom is that it's priority. So when I come to a convention, I have to have a TARDIS quilt. I absolutely have to, so that's the number one thing I have to make. And then I have a list of this is the order I have to do. And in my order, I had all these plans to make all sorts of new patches and new pillows and all sorts of things. I didn't do it. So as long as I get my most important things, I tell myself I'm happy. And I'm okay if I don't get to those other things because I hit the most important ones.
I agree. I'm the same with Tony. It's the first thing I will do this week after all this is done is I will look at the records that I keep, because I write down everything that I sell. I'll make sure that my cash box is what it needs to be and everything matches up, which is also helps to control with loss at a convention. And then I'll go and look at what's sold, and after talking to people and realizing, I was like, okay, so these are the dolls I need to make. Okay, well, what always sells? All right, so maybe I should try and make 2 of that one this time. And I'll write that whole list in priority of the dolls that I just need to replace. And at the very end, if I have time, are making the new one. So I'd say that's, and as you do that, you do that, I do that. It's that I'm saying, you know, shoot for the moon type of thing, and I do that. I make that, this is my like awesome list. If I can finish this, I feel like the best person ever, and that was one of the few feelings this convention is I got everything, but I think 2 items done that I wanted to have done for this convention. And one of them was an R2D2 doll, and the other one was making a Dalek doll, because I've had for years people ask me, are you making a doll? I was like, when I have time, I am more than happy to make a Dalek. I have a design, he's going to happen. But yeah, make that list and prioritize it, like Tony said, and just realize as you're getting closer that, you know, be realistic about your goals. Yeah, it sucks if you're not going to meet your super awesome list, but look at what you have done and look at all that work you've already done already, and be like, you know what, I have made a lot of stuff. I've made some really cool things. I've done some good stuff. While it's not what I wanted, this is still great.
Great. And I'm sorry, we're out of time, although if you want to come and ask us questions after, we're more than happy, although we have to kind of give the room up. Like I said, so we have business cards for us, and we have information for backpackers, so if you wanted to get information about the new site, they're up here. Grab. Thank you.